Good evening. Thank you all for being here tonight. I'm here tonight with Captain James Humphreys from the Montgomery County Police Department, and in a few minutes we'll answer questions from the press. But first I'd like to provide just an overview of the information that I have in front of me. So first of all, I'd like to say we serve about 160,000 students across 204 schools, and those schools are safe. This horrible incident shouldn't change anyone's mind that those schools are safe for our students. And we work very hard, and our families and our community works very hard to keep all children safe in Montgomery County. It's very important to note that we have a dedicated security team, and we have 5 security people and a school resource officer in Rockville High School, as well as many teachers, support professionals, and administrators. And while this is a horrific incident, while it has been a terrible, horrible thing for this young woman to experience and will have ongoing negative effects for her, we offer her a great deal of support, and we're very, very interested in reviewing all the things we do now to make sure that nothing like this can ever happen again under any circumstances. And at the same time, it is an incident we're here to talk about. Many people would like to change the conversation and make it more than this incident, but it is not. We have a very close partnership with the Montgomery County government and the Montgomery County Police Department. We appreciate them tremendously. We have worked closely together for many years, and in this particular situation since last Thursday when the incident came to our knowledge in our school. It is also important to understand that while some would try to make this into a question and issue of immigration, what comes down here is that we serve every student that walks in our door. We are a public school system, and we serve all of our students when they come to us. And when we look at that, it is not only the right thing to do and the good thing to do, and it benefits the students and our community and our state. It's also the law of the land, and it's what all of the school systems in this state, and I would go as far as to say virtually, or all of them in the nation do. They serve the students that walk in the door. And that's based on Plyler v. Doe from the Supreme Court. It's the interpretation of the Constitution of the United States. And we do our business by the rule of law in this country, and that's what the law says. It gives us pretty explicit information about who we should serve, and we want to serve them because we know that it would not be good for any child, no matter any circumstance or characteristic, to go without an education in this society and in this community. So it's very, very important that we help all students become productive members of society, and it is the requirement. Additionally, Maryland has compulsory attendance laws from age 5 to 17 this year, and next year that will go to 18. We've provided a lot of this information for you in packets that were available at the front door, so you have all these references. Finally, it's important to note in this situation that this is not an issue that we're going to move to the political level. A lot of people, as I've said in my earlier comments, want to make it a political comment, a political statement, a political situation. The fact is that these students were not in the same class. They were not in the same classes, but many students between the 9th and 12th grade, between 14 or 15 and 18 or 19 or 20, are in the same classes. They're in the same band class. They're in the same world language class. They're in the same play after school and present their theater productions. They're in all sorts of things. And as a teacher and a high school and middle school principal, I've observed this for the last 37 years. We're here to talk about an incident that is horrible and terrible. We'll give the information we can. We're constrained by an ongoing investigation, and we're so thankful to have Montgomery Police Department here representing tonight to give the information. But it's critically important that I say this is not about who's here based on what documents. It's not about any group of students. And in fact, what I would say to you is the vast majority of communications that have come to me and to our school board have been from concerned parents. Not all. Some have been from people who've used really racist, hate-filled rhetoric about different people based on different personal characteristics. And that is not the community I moved to last summer. It is not the community I want to live in. And we should reject that from those people. We should say, no, we're not going to paint all students who speak another language, all students of a skin color, all students of a religion with a broad brush because of a really terrible incident. So I'm saying no tonight. We're going to take care of our students. We're going to take care of this student who experienced this trauma. But what we are not going to accept is people who say that 25,000 of our students shouldn't get to go to school because they speak another language as their first home language. What we're not going to say is that of those 25,000, and we do not know, be clear, we do not know what anyone's immigration status is in this school system because the law says we don't collect that, and we don't. But of those 25,000, some are here with different kinds of documentation and some have none. And it's wholly and entirely inappropriate for any of us, anytime, anywhere, to say that we're going to deprive a 6-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 14-year-old, a 15 and 18-year-old of an education because a horrible incident happened last Thursday in one of our schools. This is what I wanted to share with you tonight. It's critically important that everyone understands schools are safe. These students did know each other. They were not in the same class, but I want to reassure our parents that their children are safe and that we will work vigilantly over the coming days. We have been working all weekend and yesterday to look at every single aspect of our safety plan, everything we do, and we're going to put out something in the next few days, certainly by early next week at the latest, to our principals. We'll make it available to our community as we review all of our safety efforts in our schools with our school safety and security teams, with our school resource officers, with our teachers when they give hall passes to students to leave the classroom, with our administrators, just to up the level and sense of security across our schools and to make sure that we've covered any gaps. So that is our work. That is what we do. Our primary focus is on teaching and learning, but the most important thing we have to do first is keep students safe. And in this horrible situation, this young woman was not safe. And for that, I am deeply grieved because I have 5 adult children and 4 grandchildren. And I just put any of their faces there, and I know what this family must be going through. So at this point, we're going to open it up to questions, and I will ask my communications team if they will call on people to ask questions. And we have Captain Humphreys here who will join me and will answer any questions that we can answer. We certainly, in the school, did an investigation, turned all of that over to the Montgomery County Police Department, and they joined in that investigation almost immediately upon report. Within moments, they were there. So I will defer to Captain Humphreys because I should not be speaking about an investigation and crossing any lines that would interfere with the judicial system. So, Captain Humphreys.
Darcy, as to your specific question, keep in mind this is still an active and ongoing investigation. So there's certain things that I'm not going to be able to talk because I don't want to jeopardize the investigation, especially considering the victim that we have. So there is evidence that we have, which I won't go into. As far as security with the school system can talk about the security that they have. But my understanding at the school, this area was kind of a remote area of the school where this happened, and it was early in the morning. And without going into any more specific details, that's sort of the layout of the land last Thursday. So it was not like in the main hall right in front of the office or something like that where there would be a lot of students around.
The governor said today that there's video of this young lady being dragged. And it was in
That's not accurate, no.
Excuse me? As a housekeeping matter, could you please give us you said the students were not in the same class. I think there's been some reporting that they were all freshmen. Could you provide us their class?
The victim is in the 9th grade. I do not know the grade level of the young men because they just entered our school last fall, and I would expect that they came with no credits, so that would technically make them a fresh 9th grader. But as far as what we do, they were students who were in the English learner program. So
What did you mean when you said they weren't in the same class?
they aren't in the same classrooms. They aren't taking the same courses together all day, and that's been one of the questions that I wanted to clear up.
Yes, so this is a standard practice, from what we understand, these two men have very little, if it had very little understanding of the English language, and that's part of the reason that despite their age, they were enrolled as freshmen. Is that accurate? Is that standard practice to have older students enrolled as freshmen if they have struggle or little to no understanding of English?
Well, it's not just little to no understanding of English. As you remember from your own high school experience, when you don't amass credits, you don't progress through the grades. That's a technical definition. And, a 12th grader, a student who would typically be in the 12th grade but has 5 credits because he or she hasn't passed classes or has been truant or dropped out for a while, they would act and live as a 12th grader, but in the office in the registrar's folder, they would be listed as a 9th grader or as having 5 credits.
The governor says that it appears as though the school district has something to hide and not providing information to the state board of education. What's your response to what the governor is saying?
The state superintendent called me about 1:30 or 2. I told her we'd be having this press conference. I told her we'd send her all the information that we were putting together for this press conference, and that has been sent at this time. And so beyond that, I don't have any idea what he might be talking about. On Friday, we were still trying to sort out what had happened and working with the police. If I had my life to live over again, we'd be having this conversation on Saturday afternoon or Sunday. But as we were working with the police department and trying to sort out many of your questions, it was very, very difficult to sort out what we could say and what we couldn't say because it's an ongoing investigation. And we absolutely must protect the victim. And we also, no matter what we think about the allegations or whatever happened, everyone has a right to a fair trial. And that's part of that is the investigation.
And then just to follow up, what would you say to parents who are concerned about the situation? And I know you said that all students are safe, but apparently you said this happened in a remote area of the school. So what changes have been made since, this incident happened to now to that remote area of the school?
We've asked all of our schools to be on much more heightened alert and awareness about the movement of students in buildings. And when we talk about the remote area, I don't want to go into that because, as the captain said, that gets into the investigation. But what I would say is this was not across the football field. This was part of the school. It was back in the back of the school in an area where there were some students, but not nearly as many as there'd be in the main course of the building. And as far as explaining how this could happen, that information will come out as the investigation comes out and as the judicial process unfolds.
The White House press secretary, Charles Spicer, said today that the victim was in the process of trying to cut your leave.
I have no information that she is anything other than a U.S. citizen. There's no information at all that she has any kind of immigrant status whatsoever.
Dr. Smith, I'm going to quote you from last night, our conversation. You said, quote, there are a variety of different English learner programs and other programs for older students, but I can't really speak to the situation because it's an ongoing situation. What you can speak to is that you had an 18-year-old freshman enrolled at a school with 13-year-olds. Was there an oversight, and why was this adult not in one of those variety of other programs that you say you have in this county for older students?
We have a great number of 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds enrolled across all 25 of our high schools. And that's what the point I was making to you last night when you caught me out by my car. So when we do that,
this adult not in another program? I mean, just to
this
understand why.
this student was enrolled in the appropriate program to give him the services that he needed, and he chose to do something very, very bad from all of the allegations. People choose to do very bad things. Mostly they don't choose to do them in schools, but sometimes they do. And that is horrible, it's unacceptable, it's tragic. But schools, relative to the rest of the world, are among the most safe places we can be in our community.
Dr. Smith, ultimately this happened during school hours, on school property. Who is responsible?
The student who committed the crime is primarily responsible. I am responsible. All of the people who work in Montgomery County Public Schools are responsible. We all take responsibility for it. It's a terrible, horrible thing. But the student who committed the crime ultimately has to be the one who is responsible for what happened in that, on that morning.
I just have a quick question. So from what I understand, the SRO was started full-time in February. Is there anything leading up to this point where the principal requested a full-time SRO back in October after sharing on this Richard Montgomery for several weeks?
I'm not familiar with those facts, but we can get that to you. That's not something that's been provided to me.
Dr. Smith, most of the comments we're getting, I'm sure, echo the comments that you've got. Speaking with parents, they sort of express this broad frustration. You know, most of them have said this sort of understanding about the immigration, but there's got to be a better way. Shouldn't this guy be in night school? Is there any vetting of these students before they come? Understanding the policies of the state law. So, is there any better way to handle young men like this when they appear at your door? And do you have the ability to do any vetting? Knowing now in hindsight that this young man was, one, stopped by Border Patrol and given a citation to appear before a judge in future days. So I guess that's two questions. Are you thinking about a better way, and can you do any vetting?
So certainly we will take a good hard look at how we place students, and we always want to do that. That's about continuous improvement of our program for learning, because the vast majority of these conversations would be about making sure the student learns enough. In this terrible situation, we're talking about why was this student in this school, and he was there to get the services that were best suited to his needs. He chose to go outside of that purpose and do a really bad thing. In terms of vetting, the school system does not do vetting, but I think the police department can provide some additional information about what they know about the circumstance. Wait just a second. Yeah.
Is there any pre-vetting?
You,
I don't mean to use that politically charged word. Is there any screening? Is there any looking at who these young people are when they present themselves to the school system as adults?
where's Josh Sivan? He can help us. What I was asking you, Captain Humphreys, is it's my understanding there's no knowledge of these two young men being involved with the police department at all prior to this.
Right. I think there's been some miscommunication in the media. We have no information that either one of the suspects had any kind of gang affiliation that we're aware of at all. And we also have checked, and they have never been in contact with our police department for being a victim of a crime, suspect in a crime, suspicious activity, no contact with us prior to this event.
So I've just been conferring. Not with the school system. We do, they have to live in Montgomery County, and we do screen them into the school system like we do all other students. I was just talking to Mr. Sivan, though, so I made sure I didn't give misinformation. There is some screening that goes on with our unaccompanied minors who come into the country, And you certainly could research that process. It's not through the school system, it's through the federal government and the placement with guardians and family members in communities in Montgomery County, around Maryland, around the nation. But there is a system for that, but we're not involved in that as a school system. They've been toward immigrants or toward Hispanic Latino students, the ones I've seen. I have no way of knowing that. There's certainly anything specific we would turn over to the police. They've mostly just been hyperbolic, strong statements about why we have people in this country who don't have documentation or who are considered illegal.
Kathleen?
So you said that this isn't a political issue, but like when you said this issue came up in the White House press conference, and they talked about whether or not Montgomery County can continue to practice those practices associated with the sanctuary counseling. How is this going to affect that?
Those questions would have to be addressed to the county government because we're not involved in that conversation. We're guided by a Supreme Court case, Plyler v. Doe, that says we admit students without looking at immigration status. That's what we as a school system are guided by. But anything to do with that topic would need to be addressed to the county government because I'm not involved in that conversation.
Here's the part that's not political or
Sorry, it's only one point. What time are we're wrapping up? So, I have a couple more points. We'll come back. We just want to make sure everyone gets a chance to ask questions.
Just to piggyback off of Brad's question, but if I'm going to be an 18-year-old adult when school starts, there's no checking in my background whatsoever, criminal, immigration, or anything?
We don't have any capacity to check into immigration, nor would we check into criminal. And what I would tell you is we have students that are sometimes incarcerated at 15, 16, 17 who come right back into our school system. So people should not be confused. I'm not here to play word games with you. Students come into our schools and we give them service, and we don't do criminal background checks on students, nor would we be allowed to when you think about a person's civil rights and those sorts of things. That would not be an environment that would be conducive to learning and opportunity.
Can you elaborate? You said certainly we will take a good hard look at how we place students.
Mhm.
Does that mean that you're going to take a different approach from what you've done before?
It absolutely means we're going to take a good hard look at how we place students as our number of students who are in high school age has grown over the last few years. And I know last year there was some work done in this area, and I'm making a commitment to continue doing that work and make sure we're giving students the services that best fit their circumstance and their level of learning and level of need.
Just three more questions, and Mike.
The aggression of this alleged attack can seem, even, pre-planned. So there was absolutely these two young men had no previous relationship or friendship with the victim. They didn't know her. Or this was random because it seems like something they kind of had planned out the way they did it with female aggression.
Would you like to respond?
Okay, I won't comment on randomness versus not randomness because that's part of the investigation. I can tell you that the victim knew one of the students as a co-student, but she did not know the other student. And that's as far as I want to comment.
They had a class together or a friendship together.
I don't want to comment about that.
So you said earlier there was a bunch of contact. Were there any reports of trouble at school? Any suspensions or expulsions? I heard no police contact. Do they have any trouble at school?
None.
Harassing students?
None that I'm aware of at all. None of that has been brought to my attention, and I'm sure the team who put together all the information would have provided that. But we can certainly look back and see, Dr. Williams, if you will check on that for me.
Last two questions.
Do you have any information or working information on how many cases of rape there have been in high school in Montgomery County or Maryland? Have community decades? Is this like singular occurrence?
I can't speak to that, and I don't want to give statistics if I don't know. I've been here for 8 months. What I would tell you, in the last 3 years, I worked at the State Department of Education, and any sort of violent crime was reported there at an incidental basis. I never saw any statistics around it at all or any reports. but just through the State Department of Education, and it was extremely rare across all of the school systems in Maryland.
So, the question that was on a lot of people can ask me, like, why was it 18-year-old and 14-year-old grade? Could you just brief summarize for us the METS program, which a lot of people don't seem to be aware of? What's this, what is this about?
The METS program is a program for students who arrive in high school, late in their age range for high school, who need support to learn English, learn social language, academic language, and the two students who are in question were in the METS program, but I really don't want to say anything else about them beyond that.
What changes are you going to make for this program?
We're going to look at all of it very closely and make decisions about meeting the needs of the students and do what makes the most sense to keep all students learning and safe.
That's it.
Roll back against immigrant students in recent days, among the students, and are you doing anything in culture there?
Nothing's happened yet, and there have been no incidents reported at all, but we're certainly keeping a very close eye on it.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes.
There you go, folks. A very just shocking and horrible situation that we are learning more about. And in the coming days and weeks, of course, we'll learn more about that investigation. But even today, the White House blaming the Maryland school rape on lax border and sanctuary policies. So we're going to be hearing a little bit more about this, especially from President Donald Trump, and hopefully we'll get some more answers there as the investigation continues onto that just horrible situation.